This is the Newsload.
Hi, I'm Carrie Anne Stevenson. Welcome to Newsload. I'm here with Sam Easton. Where are you right now, Sam?
I am in Toronto, Ontario. North York. We lived in Parkdale for a little bit, but I got the family out of Parkdale. It was very difficult, but we have a house, backyard, and moving on up.
Wonderful, wonderful. The family. So you're a unicorn. You're married with children?
Not married, but being with my partner for 15 years. I did propose, and she said yes, but that was many, many years ago. But yeah, 2 kids. Ella is turning 6, and Carter, my son, is 2.5.
Oh, boy and a girl. Perfect. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And a dog?
No, no pets. No pets.
But that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah.
So Toronto, yeah, you having fun there?
Yeah, it's been a wild ride. I got out of when my partner was pregnant with Ella, I was a little concerned about the amount of money I was bringing in as a comic and an actor. I switched careers into sports handicapping. I took a job in Costa Rica with Sportsbook Review. I lived in Costa Rica for 3 years. My daughter, spent her first 3 years in Costa Rica, and we then my partner was pregnant with my son, and we had to make a decision whether we wanted to spend the rest of our lives in Costa Rica. I wanted to, but my wife did not. So we moved back to Toronto, and it was like a month before the pandemic, and so I dream of Costa Rica. I don't. I was born in Vancouver. I was born around the ocean and the mountains. This is not my preference to live here, but Toronto's always been very good to me, and I'm very thankful for living here, and I like it enough that I don't lose my mind.
Were there monkeys in Costa Rica?
Oh yeah, there was a spider monkey that I spoke to every day before work. I actually worked right across from a refugio, animal refuge, and I had every morning I went over and I talked to Spidey. I shot videos of Spidey all the time. Spidey would play the role of my therapist, and I would discuss all the most important aspects of my life with Spidey. And I became very, very close to Spidey. I love Spidey very much. I every single day I visited Spidey, and there were sloths there. There was all sorts of animals at the refugio, but it was the spider monkey that I was closest with.
And how's your daughter's Spanish?
She spoke Spanish, uh, and I remember when we came back for Christmas when she was 2, I had no idea what she was talking about, and she's lost it all.
Oh,
So she no longer speaks. And in fact, we are setting up a trip back to Costa Rica because she doesn't remember enough. And she had a best friend, and she had a really very, very cool life that she no longer remembers. So we're going back next year because I need her to remember, just to remember that part of her, because it was a big part.
for sure, for sure. So your career has been quite phenomenal, but one of my favorite things that I noticed is that you worked with Cheech.
I did. Cheech was great. That was that was an important movie for me in 2003. Underclassmen. It's unwatchable. It's a horrible movie, but at the time we thought that it was going to be this huge film. It was Miramax, and Nick Cannon was starring with it about 45 children ago for him. And we thought that he was just popping off. He was just becoming a star. And we thought the movie was going to be huge. We thought it was going to be huge. And I didn't know any different. It was a very, very important movie for me. I had no fixed address. I had no fixed address really for 4 years, up until a Final Destination 3. But I was just on the road touring, holes in my shoes. It was a difficult time. I I had no money. When you're starting on stand-up, there's no cash, and I had no money. And so, I couldn't like go on dates. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't. I remember I felt like I had 20 minutes. 20 minutes after the show was over, I was still a pretty cool guy. And then that was gone after about 20 minutes. And then, when, I would, flirt with girls or whatever, I would always, when they say, hey, you want to go to whatever bar, I always pretend that I had something better to do, which worked out really well for when I then got money. I was pretty set up, nicely in that regard. And Underclassmen, we shot 5 weeks in Vancouver, 5 weeks in LA. When we shot in LA, I was at the Chateau, what was it called again? Chateau. Oh my God, I can't believe I forget it. It's been that long. I forget the name, but 2 of the weeks I only had to go to set one day. I was just in this unbelievable hotel in Beverly Hills, and it was a magical time in my life. It was a basketball movie, and I didn't know how to play basketball. I wasn't good at basketball, but I told them that I was an excellent basketball player. And so, I remember when I met with the director, we were at a basketball court, and I took like a bunch of shots, and there was just, brick, just horrible. But I acted as if I knew what I was doing. And I remember he looked at me and he goes, well, can you at least run? Well, yeah, I can run. What do you mean run? You want to watch me run? And it turned out Sean Ashmore, a very successful Canadian actor, also from Ontario, he couldn't run. He would run run like this. So I just ran, and he's like, okay, well, got the job. And then I had to play, at first they had me training with like SFU and UBC's basketball team. That was ridiculous. Like that didn't help at all. I was just going for loose rebounds. And then I figured it out. I was like, you know what? How about I come to set and I'll just dribble? How about you just leave me alone? I'll just be right over there dribbling. I'll smoke a bat and I'll dribble all day and all night. And that's what I did. I just dribbled for 3 months. And then by the time we shot the basketball scenes, I looked really good. Like I looked like I could play, even though all I could do was dribble. And it probably was, Final Destination 3, shooting Final Destination 3 was, probably the highlight. But Underclassmen was like the first big project. And whenever you get a big project, it always holds a special place in your heart. And the movie Miramax didn't even release. It was so awful. And Disney ended up putting it out like 2.5 years later. I brought all my friends to the theater to watch it. And that was the biggest mistake I could ever made. 20 comics just making fun of me nonstop. From the first second, it was line after line, huge laughs. There was only one other person in the theater, and he walked halfway through. I remember I went with my family to see that movie with my dad was very, very close with his aunt, my great aunt, and she's no longer with us, but he wanted her, to see the movie. So we took her to see the movie. And I had a bunch of dialogue and like a lot of scenes. And then afterwards, we're walking out of the theater, and my great aunt said, maybe next time you'll get a role where you can speak. I was like, what? And my dad thought that was the funniest thing he'd ever heard. He laughed. I mean, I got laughed at a lot during this period of my life.
What was
But
your
it's a special.
favorite insult that one of your comic buddies said to you?
Oh, I've blocked it all. I've blocked all of it. But you can imagine Erwin Barker, John Bueller, like these guys were just teeing off a line after line after line. I mean, it was I never made that mistake again. I never shared anything that meant anything to me with any comedian friends ever again. I learned
Oh
my
yeah.
lesson. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's a given rule to all you comics out there. If you have anything that you think could be good and could possibly blow up in your face, don't bring your friends.
Don't do it. But Cheech was incredible. He was very kind and because when you're just a nobody, people don't really want to hang out with you or have anything to do with you. And Cheech was never like that. Cheech was very kind and probably could smell the reefer smoke on me, which is always bonding.
Did you smoke with him?
I did not smoke with him. When I was 8, I was a big Bernie Kosar fan. He was a quarterback for the Cleveland Browns, wore number 7. And I wore number 7. I emulated him. I tried to throw like him, on the playground. And he was in the press box at the Vancouver Canucks hockey game. And I lost my mind. I was like, I'm freaking out. I gotta go meet Bernie Kosar. And my dad got angry with me. he was like, Bernie Kosar does not want to meet you. He's finally getting a chance, you know, and I forget how he did it, but it just stopped me. And from that moment on, I never cared about meeting anybody famous ever again. I never bothered, never nothing, never, you know, and then that made it actually work out. You know, even when we were, you know, shooting Underclassmen, Outcast was in my hotel for a couple weeks because the MTV awards were in LA, and I just nodded to them. You know, I didn't care. You know, I was huge fans, but I was just like, you know, whatever. And then after 2 weeks, I smoked a blunt with them, you know, beside their limo, just because if you act like, you know, it's not a big deal, then they'll treat you like a regular person because you're treating them like a regular person. And so it ended up working in the long run. But no, I didn't ask Cheech to smoke with me. I always had the attitude that that person does not want to meet new people, just wants to chill and take it easy. And so I didn't bother. And Cheech probably liked that because I had lunch with him, you know, 25 times during the shooting of that film.
That's amazing. Lunch with Cheech? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I rode
Yeah,
an elevator with Christian Slater once and hyperventilated and was unable to talk to him. Also, Miley Cyrus was in the hotel or in the elevator with me. And but Christian Slater, like I completely lost you know, everything. But I was working on the movie set, The Cleaner, with Lucy Liu and Cedric the Entertainer and such. And yeah, I get very starstruck. Kurt Russell on Miracle said, "Hi, how are you?" And I went like, "Oh my God, you're having sex with like Goldie Hawn. This is how can you look my direction and say hello to me?" Like, ah! You know, but
yeah, I play hockey with their son. He was a goaltender.
oh, he's a lovely kid, isn't he?
Yeah, well, this is the kid that isn't famous. He
Oh,
tried to be a goaltender. He tried to be an elite hockey player. I played with him in Penticton for a couple seasons. But yeah, you know, it's funny. The whole Bernie Kosar incident, my friends make fun of me for it, but it really knocked all of the excitement. The only person I was like giddy and wanted to meet was Harlan Williams, you know, and I got to meet him a bunch of times through stand up, and I got to audition with him in LA a bunch of times, stuff like that. But when I first wanted to meet him, it was at the Ajax Yuck Yucks, and I was like really giddy and excited. But he's the only guy. Other than that, I don't care. And I lived in LA for, you know, 5 years, 6 years, and my stepsister is, you know, friends with the most famous people imaginable, and so I got to hang out with them. And you know, if you just treat people normal, they relish it. And if you don't care about seeing it, you know, that always worked for me. It was staying calm. But Harlan Williams, I got a little giddy around.
very cool. So, what are you up to now?
I'm a gambler. I was always a gambler, and near the end of my stand-up career, my book of action I cared more about than my book of jokes. And so we did a documentary called Who is Jimmy the Bag? And the documentary didn't really catch on or anything like that, but I started filming my own personal action every day. And after a few months, a few of the websites I started talking to, and they, you know, then that's what led to my job in Costa Rica. And so, you know, my dad raised me at the horse track. Gambling is in my blood, and my job now is the most wonderful thing I can imagine. But gambling every day is stressful, and you know, we all in our industry, we have a unit size, meaning how much is a single bet of yours. You know, my unit size is $200 a bet, but I'm a high volume gambler. Today, for instance, I have, you know, 14 bets in Major League Baseball, and you know, there's a lot of money on the line. I got 5 bets on the opener in CFL, and I have 3 bets in Game 3 of the Stanley Cup Finals. And you learn to handle the roller coaster ride of emotions. Last year was the best year I've ever had, as a gambler. And I had a rough day yesterday, and it affects me, and I try not to let it affect me. I'm a father to two incredible kids, and I got to be a dad and all that stuff. But it affects me. I have a show Tuesday through Friday at 11 a.m. on Pub Sports Radio, Betting with the Bag, and it's extremely enjoyable. I have about 250, 300 live with me every day, and we cap the card together, and I put in enormous amount of work in my prep. I need to prep for a minimum of 6 hours, but I probably prep between 6 to 9 hours for each show. And that's what separates me from my colleagues. Part of the reason is I look the way I look. So you have to always play to the opposite and working harder than every single person in the industry.
Exactly. Because how old are you now? Because you still look 22.
I'm 43. I'm 43 years old.
Good for you, man. Good for you. Your kids are going to be fabulous.
I hope so, but then they're also going to be gamblers. So I do fear for their futures. But yeah, I have a show Tuesday through Friday. The gambling industry is a fraudulent industry. It started, as many of you know, it started back in the day in newspapers, magazines. There'd be a phone number, call 1-800-GREAT-PICS, and I'll give you a winner.
Yeah, the terrible bookies and stuff who will break your kneecaps.
Well, yeah, but it really just started with the phone number. The phone number was the first thing that started bringing it out into the open. And what they would do is they would give you, everybody who called in, they would give half one side and half the other. And if you lost, you were given a free pick. And the same thing happened the next day. You gave half to one side, half the other. So half the people think you're spectacular and want to buy your stuff each time, and the other half get a free pick and have a 50% chance of hitting a winner the next time. It's always been based on fraudulence, and they're in our industry, they're called touts, and they sell you their picks. And to succeed on a bet, if you want a regular bet is a minus 110 in North America, which means it costs $110 to win $100. And to then succeed at that point, you need to hit 52.4% to break even. You need to hit about 54.5% to start bringing in a 2 to 3% ROI, return on investment. So my whole thing when I started in this industry is I said that all of these touts are frauds. They're all scamming. They're all just trying to sneak into your room at night and take your wallet, and they're not hitting at 55%. That's why they don't put their action out. It's all lies. And that made some people in the industry despise me, but it also brought me a big fan base, because I said, I'm never going to sell you anything in my life. Never going to sell you anything. I just want to cap with you. I couldn't believe in the industry, everybody tried to be these great touts. They didn't try to be great gamblers. And all I wanted to do is be a great gambler. It's still all I wanted to be a great gambler. So that built my fan base out of honesty and transparency, and that set me apart from this very fraudulent industry.
It might have to do with the fact that you're a little bit funny too.
I don't know if that's coming across here on the show. I've got enormous action on this White Sox-Yankees game 1 of the doubleheader, and I'm like, I'm very caught up in whether Lance Lynn has started off the game well. When it's almost like people with an improvisational background. If you try to be funny, it's not funny.
This is the Newsload.
As it would organically. The most important thing